Welcome to another episode of the Medtech Business Academy. I am your host, Scott Alexander. Here, joined today is the esteemed Barbara Strain and the well-hydrated Mike Sperduti. And we're going to be talking about a topic that is front and center in everybody's mind. Even to the point of, we may even be tired of hearing about this stuff, but we're going to talk about AI and its impact in the medical device space, particularly how we're interacting with others. So less so about AI in the platform and more about how you may use it in driving your commercial model forward. So been looking forward to this conversation. I know there's a ton of things going on, but I guess to kick us off, Barbara, do you want to?
I'm going to cough.
You're going to cough. So we're going to roll over to Mike. Why don't you kick us off with some opening thoughts?
Sure. So, I think like everybody else, what we're seeing, the advancement of knowledge right now is just amazing. And what's really exciting to me is, it used to be information was so scarce, and that information scarcity created value for the people that held that scarce information. So that's why lawyers got paid big bucks, and doctors got paid big bucks, and engineers and mathematics and coders, and because they had this specialized knowledge that was scarce, only few people had it. And what AI has really done has created an abundance of information. So now everybody has PhD level information in the palm of their hand, or expert knowledge of a sales rep, or expert knowledge of a marketer. It's all there. So the way that we're using AI really in my businesses, and I use it in two different ways. I use it on the sales side, basically to sell more effectively, and we use it on the innovation side in terms of creating new IP and new patents and doing freedom to operate agreements with AI. It's been a very big driver in, number one, being better at both of the functions, and number two, just driving costs down. And, we could talk about later about specifics on how we do it, but I think it's for, if you're not using it for innovation relative to IP, and you're not using it in sales in terms of customer prep, role play, just design of PowerPoint presentations, you're really missing the boat.
Good perspective. Barbara, are you able to talk?
I think I can talk now.
Okay, good.
My water I actually choked on my own water.
May or may not have been vodka. We're not judging.
It's supposed to be helpful. Anyway, on the provider side, I've seen a lot of different versions of people talking about AI. And it's been the last sort of 3 months or so where we're actually talking about the results, the different parts of like supply chain and other pieces of healthcare are actually using it and getting results. And so what we're really using it for, and what most anyone in either the provider world and or the supplier world is, we have so much data. So we're data rich, but we're information poor, because we've got to get in line to have somebody churn data for us. We have to get analytics done and everything. So it slows the adoption of things either going to market if you're a supplier, or it prevents us from making some really good decisions quicker. So when we say we're going to save so many, $2 or $3 million on this one project, we might not realize it for months and months and months because all this data just needs to be crunched. So people are now using AI to really have these great prompts. And that's the real key thing on what am I really looking for? Do I need to know how much of this we bought, or what was the price of, or how many companies we used, any of that sort of thing. So we're getting that sort of detail now. And I just attended 2 weeks ago the National It's called ARM, Healthcare Association for Healthcare Resource and Material Managers. So all the key level people that are key directors and leaders in supply chain and value analysis and all were there. And I attended as many of those sessions as possible. So I won't give you all the stuff now. We'll go through the session, but it's really out there and we're getting results.
I think what we're seeing, it's funny because there are areas where we explicitly use it and where we explicitly don't use it. And we'll get into content creation because I know, Mike, you and I have differing perspectives on that. But we use it where I've seen the most use is in ensuring that you don't miss action items. Like this sounds really, really tactical, but I run a marketing firm and we've got 30 some odd people that are working there, all on meetings with different clients and internally and that sort of thing. And there's so many things moving around. And so what we've been doing, we use Fathom, right, which is a recording tool. And then you can query the specific conversations to go back and look at things like, okay, what was happening? What did Johnny over here talk about? And what did he want to see as a result of that kind of conversation? And doing that in an automated fashion has allowed us to become much more efficient and effective in terms of making sure that we're getting done what we said we were going to get done. And then the other application in that thing, we do a fair amount of market research, and it's really interesting. You have the interviews and that sort of thing, qualitative market research, and then you can go back and you can query those survey or those interviews. And so you can get in and say, hey, what did this person talk about this thing? And what did this person talk about that thing? So that it just makes the data retrieval piece that much more efficient. Back to the point that you had, Barbara, that, on the provider side, we're used to being data rich and information poor, right? These kinds of queries and the ability to scan large volumes of documents and that sort of thing to get to an answer is increasing our ability to make good informed decisions in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
So, there's I've been reading about, there was some study, I forget what school it was or what have you, but there was a study that AI is making people stupid.
I believe it.
That actually, because, and I can see where that argument comes in, right? Because there's a lot of people, and I think, Scott, this is where you were alluding to when we were talking about content, right? So what's your company's policy on content creation?
We explicitly do not use AI for content creation.
And what's the reason why you don't do that?
Two reasons. So the first, there's copyright issues. So the idea of if you're using artificial intelligence for generating content, whether written or visual, you don't own the copyright of it. And so that's a key piece. And then the other thing, this is probably the bigger driver really, is we're generally marketing for innovative companies that are trying to do something different and better. And I think generative AI is really regenerative AI. So the whole idea is it's taking existing material and it is packaging up in a slightly different way than what's been said before. Like that's what it's doing. And most of our clients are trying to create. We talk about thought leadership. They're trying to become a thought leader in their given space. And so if all you're doing is regurgitating what's already been said, you're not establishing yourself as a thought leader. You're just simply saying what everyone else has already said. And so the only way that you get to true creation of thought leadership is coming up with new, novel, and innovative ways to do things. And you don't get that from using AI or things like that. So that's our perspective on it.
No, and I think that makes sense. And that's right in line with the point of this study, whatever it was that said it's making people stupid, right? Because think about it. There's how many people are out there right now that are call themselves marketers and they work for a company of their independence and they have a client that they want a brochure and they sell MRIs and you say, hey, go on my client's website, look at the stats on the MRI and write a brochure and make it in these colors. And lo and behold, 5 minutes later, you have something that looks actually pretty well designed and is factually accurate, and you brought nothing to the equation. And so to your point, Scott, what does that do is it just creates more of the same, right? Because literally it's just taking it's I like your word, regenerative AI.
Yeah.
So that's why I understand why people don't like it, why people don't use it, and why it's making people stupid. But on the other side of the coin, how I use it and how I find it incredibly effective for content or for just organizing a letter or a thought or whatever it is basically me coming up with the creative. So to your point, one of the things that we do at Emerge that has separated us from every other inside sales company in the world is we don't use the standard language patterns that every other rep uses. And we don't go into the call the way that every rep uses. So if you go on ChatGPT and you say, write me an inside sales conversation guide, literally the first thing that's going to say is, hi, name, this is your name, and I work with this company. Do you have a few minutes to talk? And that's how ChatGPT or something very generic, which you've heard 4 million times, that's going to be the call pattern. And if you utilize that, you're going to get the same shitty results that everybody else is getting. But now if I put in my way of doing it, which is a lot more creative, and I structure the dialogue well, but there might not be some nuanced language that how a CNO speaks, or there might be some nuanced language that the director of the lab might speak because they're in that business. And I want to have ChatGPT tweak my message and make it more appealing to the ear of the audience. That's where it's awesome for. So I look at it as being for anybody as in a creative capacity, it's an instrument. If you use your own stuff and you're playing with your own stuff, I think you're going to sound great or better as long as it's in your voice. But I think if it's lazy and you got the player piano, it's gonna be like every other person that has a player piano.
Yep, exactly.
Barbara, you're muted.
That's because I was still having the little coughing thing. I didn't until 3 minutes ago. Anyway, so what I was going to sort of bring up earlier, and I think it's a good place to put that, before we went on, Scott had brought up a Fortune magazine article from August 18th about various pieces of generative AI that really isn't doing well in things. And one of the things they said, and what interests me, was the workforce impact. Because everybody said, oh, it's going to be able to do all these administrative tasks and we won't need all these people. Well, we kind of look at it a little different in healthcare, because what we're wanting to do is take sort of those mundane administrative tasks that nurses, technologists, others do, and have them work, as we always say, at the top of their license. So they're just not having to, write and type and all these things down. Is how can we make their days better to spend more time with patients, more time on that clinical and things. So I disagree a little bit with the article and in that case. So personally, I use it for some research because a lot of marketing research is very, very expensive. And so being an individual business owner, I can't afford that. So I go out and do my own little research, and then I'll put something in AI just to ask real specific questions, and it'll give you all of the references it came from. So I don't use anything until I go see all of those references and compare it to mine. So it's like educating me, but also being able to pick up one or two things that may be important that I, as an individual, might have missed with just doing it myself. So that's one thing I use it for.
So, Barbara, let me ask you this question. So, first of all, to do your research, what platform are you using?
I use Gemini. So it's the Google AI. And if you're on Google.com and Gmail, it stays within that sort of group. And what I was telling the gentleman a little earlier is there are different subscription levels to different AIs. And you need to read that carefully because depending on the level you choose and pay for, it has a different type of security or different functionality or different add-ons that you can do to make some of your work easier. Sometimes the work isn't actually made easier, but the final result may be better, if you get my drift a little bit. But yeah.
Interesting. So that's one platform I haven't used. My research platform is Perplexity. But my question to you is this, because you've obviously done a tremendous amount of work in the voice of customer space, in the understanding the customer positioning. You'd write reports and do research reports. Scott, you as well, right? I mean, you do this deep research. Prior to the platform that you're using right now, how much faster do you have access to that information, and really how much better are the reports are you writing better reports because of AI? Are you better at what you do because of AI? I'll ask that to both of you.
Yeah. So what I found it does is it takes a few hours out of my day that I would spend doing deep dives into research papers that then they have references that I dive into. And you know how all that goes. It's like a big tunnel and you just keep going. There is no light at the end of it because I can go on for a long time in these tunnels. So what AI does for me, it helps to keep me focused and on track, but I don't entirely, like I said, I don't just take what it says.
No, but I think that's the part that makes no sense. I mean, then you're not needed. If you just have to type in a prompt and you're not needed, then you're not needed, right? And then, and to your point, it hallucinates all the time. So it's like it's almost like an idiot savant in that it's like incredibly smart sometimes, and then sometimes it's like, what? Right. You can't even do a simple math equation, but you can slap the code to
especially if they put a percent in there. I go, no, I got to go read that article because I don't think that's what they meant. So they don't understand the context. I'm talking to it like it's a person, but it doesn't understand the context enough, and so they're literally versus the real thing. So I don't rely on it, but I try to get it to enhance my learning. So then I know it's not correct and go do something else in that case.
I think so, Scott, same question to you. What platform do you use, and does it make you better, or like what is it doing for you and your business?
Yeah. I mean, we'll do on the research front. I tend to use ChatGPT as a good one. Perplexity is good as well, but I think it's really useful for understanding the background of a space. So if we're going to come into a space and we want to understand, hey, we're going into, I don't know, atrial fibrillation technologies, and we want to understand who are the players, what are the spaces, that sort of thing. Like, give me an overview. It's good at doing that. And then to your point, Barbara, like you want to follow the strings, because the things that get published by ChatGPT, I'm always suspect about. It's, I want to follow the string down to, like, let me actually read the white paper, or let me read the information. I think that that's an effective way to come up to speed on any space in our industry really quickly. Is we can get somebody to, in 5 minutes, you get an in-depth report that you can then kick off from. I do think that a lot of us remember when, like, the .com world came out, and there's a technology life cycle, which like something comes out and then you get the hype curve and everybody's like, this is the best thing ever, and then you get this massive fall off of like, oh, this is terrible, and then like a slow build over time. And where I think we are in the AI world is, I think over the past year to 18 months, we've been in this like hype cycle of like, it's the best thing ever, it's amazing. And right now we're sort of on the coming down the backside of the roller coaster hill. And I feel like, was it MIT was saying 95% of the AI companies are in trouble, right? People are starting to question more and more the results that are coming out of it. And I think, and question the people that are using it to get results, right? Like, there's a lot of questioning. I think where we are right now is we're going to see a big, massive turn against AI. The people are going to say, hey, it doesn't work. When the truth of the matter is, Mike, to the point you made earlier, and I think we've all been making, there are certain applications where it's incredibly useful. And there's a lot of stuff where it is just the hype doesn't, isn't the reality doesn't match the hype. And so I think the biggest thing right now is like making sure that what you're doing is actually working and focusing on those areas that actually drive value. So, but what do you mentioned you use Perplexity, right, Mike?
Yeah, so I use 3 different platforms, and so I use ChatGPT. I have the pro version of that, and I use that as my reasoning model and my for legal work. I use it as my legal attorney and I put prompts in there to act as certain. If I'm doing a freedom to operate agreement or if I'm filing for new IP, I'll actually create prompts for that. And then the research that's necessary to make those decisions, I pull from Perplexity because I found that the research was much more reliable. And to Barbara's point, you have to tie all that research to the study, right? How many times, because I would use chat and I would click on the link and there'd be nothing there. And that got frustrating because I burnt a shitload of time on these reports and, I wanted to speed up. So Perplexity always was more reliable in terms of getting me data and getting me research. And then I use Gronk for social preferences. What is the sentiment about this and that? And that's because Gronk is getting its feed from Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So that information is excluded from the other platforms. So what I find is the best for reasoning and the best for me to work with it as like my sidekick that gets to know me and be an extension of me would be chat. Perplexity is all my research, and Gronk is just keeping me on pace with what's going on out there.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So a couple of things that I did learn a few weeks ago there was 3 things. One is when people are trying to read an RFP that was sent out, a request for proposal or request for price, whatever you're talking about, it comes back and there's pages and pages and pages. Mm-hmm. So between contracting documents as well as RFP results that take hours to go through and sift and try to find where all these clauses are and everything, by doing AI in about a minute and a half, someone timed it and they said in their talk about a minute or half later, I've got all the highlights, I've got all the key things, I can zero in on it, or if I need to find a particular clause. So it's saving that amount of time because that's human brains have to do that. And it takes hours. And like I said, it helps to cut down on time to onboarding, these products that are innovative or at least going to help our outcomes and things. So the sooner we can do that, the sooner our patients will benefit. The other thing, I lived this when I directed surgical supply, is that how they actually decide what's going to be there on the back table at a case and what you really need are called preference cards. So they have all these items on it. And then when they don't use something, they're supposed to document they don't use. And then all those come back that weren't used. They have to be put back on shelves and things. So the whole thing has been, how do you clean preference cards? So everybody's been trying everything. So this was a whole project between a very large health system and a computer company that deals with all the healthcare data. And they devised something that actually can take all this information and actually boil it down and be able to streamline and keep them. It's the hard part is keeping them streamlined. So they're continuing to work on that, but it's really promising what they put in front of everybody. So, it's to be used.
I think that's the kind of application that we're going to see, where we're going to see it really work, which is it's super narrow, it's super focused, right? You're getting a task done. I think where we run into problems is when people expect you to do too much, but something like that is very doable, right? It's if you had a really big Excel spreadsheet and 26 hours in the day, you could do it. It's just you don't want to, so you're sort of making the technology do the things that you don't want to spend on it. I think that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think also that in terms of when you're using AI, one of the things that people tend to do is overburden the amount of what it's asking it to do at one time instead of chunking it into little deliverables
Yep.
and then have it roll up into the major answer. So I think if you look at it as, let's just try to get the data first. Let's not analyze the data. Just get me the data first and then verify that the data is right and even go deeper to make sure that you can either get more or higher quality data. Then once you have the data, then ask it to look at certain things and maybe not everything that you want, but just maybe 2 or 3 things and then just keep chunking it. Because what I found is if I chunk it, it's a lot better and a lot quicker and a lot less hallucinations.
Mike, are you not worried about, or what's your take on sort of the ownership component? So you're using it for kind of legally stuff. Any concerns about what's being created? And then the other side, and this is just me being like maybe a scaredy cat, but I'd be afraid that if I was using it as my legal representative, that it was going to hallucinate something that was going to get me in a lot of trouble. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you use ChatGPT without using a lawyer to check the work, you're insane.
Yeah.
There'd be something like, seriously, it's nuts because you're hoping that you have no expertise and you're not a lawyer, right? You're a business person or whatever, and you're going to draft this agreement or you're going to write this freedom to operate, that you're going to make all your investors feel really happy that you really have something that you can sell. And meanwhile, it's hallucinating and making stuff up. You're nuts if you do that. So the way to do it is use it. And then if you're a subject matter expert, that again, what we're saying is you're not relying on this thing for its knowledge. What you're doing is you're taking what your knowledge is and putting it into it and constructing it. So like in a legal context, let's say I'm working on a patent and now I've worked with ChatGPT for a patent and I've gotten everything down and I've done all my research and I'm ready to file with the patent office. Before I do that, I send it to my $1,000 an hour Venable patent attorney. His name is Keith Hadaway. He's worth every penny. And Keith is a PhD in organic chemistry, and he's also an attorney. And so he now will validate the work that ChatGPT did. But I'll tell you, it saved me. So far, I've been right every single time because we've done so many searches on the checks and balances, and the amount of my legal bills are down. Keith's not happy, but I'm happy because my legal bills are down big time.
Yeah. At some point, Keith is going to try and unplug ChatGPT, is what I hear. So.
Well, and lawyers, like everybody else, if it's what's going to really be interesting is knowledge is not is a commodity now. What's really what creativity and how to bring things together and what you bring to the table. So anybody who's a doer. If you're a doer and you just execute because this is my job function and I execute this, you're going to be out of work. It's the people that are able to, and at the time being, I think we're all going to be out of work at some point. But for the time being, it's the people that can manage all these assets and bring it together with asking great questions and being curious and asking about markets that nobody's doing and then bringing the technology behind it. I
think just, and I know we're getting close to time, but you said a word that caught me, which is curiosity. I think to me, that's the thing that if, I've got 4 young kids, they're going through school and that sort of thing. And to me, it's that ability to be curious about things that makes a tool like ChatGPT or Perplexity or any other large language models really an incredible tool. Because to your point, Mike, like the execution of things is becoming truly a commodity. Even very complex execution like patent law to some degree is becoming less and less specialized and unique and more commoditized. And so I think the superpower of the future is really the ability to be curious about something and to ask questions and then to like put the Lego pieces together in a way that builds something meaningful. And I think that to me is one of the things that I don't know that we as grownups get told enough to do is like flex your curiosity, try to go learn more, that sort of thing. So sorry, you just hit a nerve with me. So in a good way.
No, I get
it's
it.
true.
And I think it's a great time to, for me, I think it's the best time to be an entrepreneur because you can have all these AI agents doing a lot of research for you, and you can test a lot of things. You can create like landing pages just to test things out now, and just go out and do things that years ago it just was impossible to do. I mean, imagine how quickly all of us can get up to speed on anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you're an equivalent playing field because you have a PhD in your pocket. You ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Barbara, you can say something.
Well, I was going to say it takes me back to the movie about the planning of the moonshot, and you had the human computers. So you had all these women who were on tall ladders writing in chalk on blackboards, and one of them was curious enough about the new computer age and actually co-opted a computer, and they could speed up all of their calculations and come out with information quicker. So we're at that precipice now, I think, with AI. Everybody has got some sort of dose of it. Either they're going, I don't want to get involved with any of that artificial stuff. But if you embrace it and use it correctly, it's all in the prompts, back to the chunking versus, I want to know what the best way, you're never going to get there. But you have to be inquisitive, but you have to use it correctly in order for it to be valuable to you and valuable to society. It just can't be willy-nilly or things. And maybe those are my last points I'm going to make today, because I know we need to wrap up pretty soon. But I just think I took actually some classes, and learning the prompts and all of that was probably the most valuable. Plus, I made some cool slides with it, and it comes out really well.
That's cool. Mike, what kind of parting thoughts do you have to share?
So I would just say that it's a blessing. I think this technology right now is a blessing to any of us that want to be creative and explore and be able to do things that quite honestly we just couldn't do before, and just become smart at anything. I mean, I can tell you that from negotiating my girlfriend's Mercedes lease, to some health issues that I've had to overcome, to some just amazing things business-wise with getting a patent. Over the last 2 years, I attribute almost every bit of success in every bit of my area, every bit of my life has gotten better because of the tool. And it's because I bring something to the tool. I play the tool. I'm like I know how to play that instrument to get what I need out of it. So if you are good at what you do, whatever that is, I don't care what it is, you pour that and you work with this technology as a resource, and it'll do things for you that you just couldn't do before, and it'll make you better, and it'll scale you, and it'll save you a lot of time.
Yeah. My thoughts is basically yes. I mean, I think there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of reality of what it is, and I think you said it really well, Mike. Using it will make you better. You just got to use it the right ways. Well, I want to thank everybody for listening in. I know this has been a great conversation. Just a quick plug. We are rapidly approaching our 100th episode, and would love to have you join. It's going to be a fantastic conversation that we've got with, well, I won't spoil it. So looking forward to you coming and listening to that one as well. And hope you have a wonderful day.